talking all about limiting beliefs, where they come from, what they are, how do you know if you have one, how to identify what your limiting beliefs may be. And Mary and I will actually be sharing our personal experiences, not just with our own limiting beliefs, and yeah, we do have them, but also examples of people that we've been working with as well, and how to help them eliminate their limiting beliefs and the amazing lives that they've been going on to create for themselves once they've got rid of these dreaded beliefs and programs, and once they banish them forever. I'm also going to guide you through a very simple but very powerful process called my subconscious success imprint exercise. So we'll go through this process together, and by the end of it, you'll be well on your way to eliminating your limiting belief. And in its place, you'll be installing some very positive, empowering beliefs into your subconscious mind that will leave you feeling confident, inspired, and unstoppable, so that you can achieve any goal that you set for yourself faster and easier than you've ever imagined possible. So I think we should jump straight into it, Mary. What do you think?
I think so.
What I'd really like to do is actually start with your story, because your limiting belief story is number one, so amazing, but it's also what really started you in the whole personal development realm.
It was the doorway. By going through that experience, it launched me into what became my whole career. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. I had a high school experience like most young girls dream about. I was class vice president. I was on the drill team. I had a lead in the junior play. I was a homecoming princess. And at the end of my junior year in high school, I got pregnant. My high school boyfriend had gone off to college, came home on spring break. I get pregnant, and May 1, I tell my mom and dad I'm now pregnant. My mother wept for me as if I had died. In her mind, all her dreams for me were dying. And we had a very hasty 10-person wedding. A couple weeks later, the principal of the high school, through the intercom, you might remember those, called Mary to Mary Mannon to the office, and then he said, so, are these rumors I'm hearing about you true? And I said, well, if the rumors are that I'm pregnant and married in that order, then yes, they're true. And I remember him just putting his head in his hand saying, Mary, you have great grades, you have terrific honors, but you will not be allowed to return here for your senior year in high school. I mean, it would be totally inappropriate for a pregnant girl to get mixed in with the normal girls. He said, but there is a place you can go to complete your high school experience. It's a high school not held during daylight, it's after dark. It's in a high school across the river. It turned out to be in a place I hadn't been allowed to drive in after dark. And it's where the pregnant girls and the delinquent boys go to high school. And so you can see the group I'm now relegated to. And so the next fall, I drive across the river. I drove up to this high school that was Washington High School during the day for the normal kids, and became Washington Evening High School at night for the rest of us. And I'm thinking as I walk up to that school, okay, every girl here is either pregnant or has a baby. Every guy is some kind of delinquent. This is my new student body. Now, I don't know where you were at the beginning of your senior year, but this is where I was. My first son was born in December of 1966, and I graduated from Washington Evening High School in May of 1967. And 2 months later, I'm in an intensive care ward in a Portland hospital, having been diagnosed with fatal kidney disease. One kidney is totally destroyed with nephritis. The other kidney has 50% destruction, active nephritis, which in 1967 is a death sentence. There's no dialysis. There's no kidney transplants. And the scientists, the MDs and the specialists are saying to me, if we can get the blood toxin level in your body reduced enough so you can survive a surgery to remove your right kidney, then maybe you will have 6 months to live. I have a 7-month-old son that my mother is watching for me now while I'm in intensive care. My son's dad is working. He's staying with my parents to take care of our son and be there. And I'm in a hospital with the best shot I'm going to get, 6 months. I'm devastated. I'm terrified. I'm scared, and I'm brokenhearted. And the night finally before the surgery was scheduled to remove the right kidney, a woman walked in my room who identified herself as a volunteer chaplain, who volunteered a couple of nights a week, and she was given the names of the most dangerous surgeries that were going to occur the next day in order of severity, and my name was at the top of her list. And she said, would you like somebody to pray with you? Now, the God of my upbringing was not a friendly place to go when you felt like you had really screwed up, which I obviously in my mind had. And deep down, when we're talking about limiting beliefs, I didn't even know when this is why it's what you do, Natalie, is so powerful. I didn't even know that I had this belief, but deep down I believed that I was being punished. So the God of my upbringing was a punishing, angry God. And I mean, later I would say that God needed to attend some anger management classes, but
yes,
I didn't know that at the time. And so I was scared, and I said, okay, well, yes, you could pray with me. And she didn't do anything that looked like prayer. She pulled her chair next to my bed. She sat down and she said, would you be willing to tell me what's been going on in your life the last year or two? So she's looking at the events of my life because she knows something I don't know at that point, that she can point to the events of my life and see what the thinking is that's driving those results. And so I tell her my story, at the end of which she said to me, Mary, everything's created twice. And I had no idea what she was talking about. Today I would say I had no landing page for that awareness. And I looked at her quizzically and she said, you know this. In fact, everybody knows it. Everything's created twice, but almost nobody knows the power of knowing that. The bed you're laying on, the nightgown you're wearing, the sheet covering you, the walls, the ceiling, the floor, all this machinery first had to be a thought before it could be a thing. So look around you right now. Everything in your life, the clothing you're wearing, where you're sitting, the chair, everything you can see first had to be a thought before it could be a thing. This was the first time, of course I knew this, but I didn't even begin to consider the power of knowing this. And then she said to me, I hear how much you love your little boy. I can also hear how much you've been hating yourself. You feel like you shamed your school, you shamed yourself, you shamed your family. And now that you're considering how everything is created twice, could you consider that there absolutely could be a correlation between that toxic thinking and the toxic energy that is rampaging your body, threatening your very life? This was, today we talk about a paradigm or a belief structure, a belief system. It was completely outside my belief system that what I was thinking and feeling would have anything to do with my health. And then she said to me, so could you believe it's possible that I could say a prayer and over the night that prayer could do such good in you that in the morning when the doctors come to get you to take you to the surgery, they look at you, they say, you know what, you're better, we better test you. You seem better, we'll test you. And then the tests come back and they say, you have had a complete healing. Get up, go home, you're fine. Could you believe that's possible? And I told her the truth. No, I did not. I'd been in so much pain. There was no part of me that could believe I was going to have a direct overnight healing. And she says, all right, if you can't believe this, now think about it for a moment. In the universe, there was something about the way she said universe, that up until then, it had been like a compilation of parts in my mind. But when she said it, it was like it came alive, that in the universe, she said, in all the infinite possibilities, couldn't there be one possibility where by saying a prayer, or saying words, we're going to scoop up everything that is the genesis and the source of this dis-ease in you, place it in the one kidney that's going to get removed, and when that kidney is removed, instead of you getting worse, you actually get better. Could you believe that?
Wow.
And I didn't know to believe it, but I could tell she believed it was possible. And perhaps this was the first time in my life where I ever accessed or decided to believe in somebody's belief that was operating at a higher frequency than my own. And I said, well, maybe it's I don't know if it's probable, but maybe it's possible. And she said, that's all we need. One corner of your mind open to this possibility. Let's work with that. And then she said a prayer. She said words. I didn't have any sense of the science behind it at that time, but I just participated in what she said. She left. I slept and went to sleep. In the morning when they woke me up for the surgery, I remember thinking, wow, I slept all night. I hadn't slept all night in weeks, no matter how much pain medication they gave me. They did the surgery, removed the right kidney, and she had given me a tool to use post-surgery. Now, I didn't know she was giving me a transformational tool. I didn't know that it was based in the science of how our minds and bodies and the energy of emotion and thought work together, how our brains work. I didn't know any of that. She just gave me a tool. And this is what she said to me. She said, after the surgery, you're going to be distracted for a few days with pain. As soon as that's over, because of the many times you've rehearsed self-loathing, the many times you've been thinking thoughts of self-hatred and feeling feelings of self-hatred, your mind's like a rubber band. It's going to want to go rehearse those thoughts and feelings. And every time you notice that you're thinking a thought of self-hatred or self-loathing, I want you to immediately say, no, that left with the kidney, and then do these three things. And she gave me a mind movie.
Yeah.
She didn't call it that, but she said, so imagine this. She said, I told her if I could live, she had asked me that question, if you did live, what would you do with your life? I would raise my son. I want to always, since I was a little kid, wanted to become a teacher. And I had still had planned for that before I had become sick. Like when I get him to a certain age, I'll be able to go to college. So that's what I would do with my life. And so she said, so here's what I want you to do. Say, no, that left with the kidney. And then immediately imagine that you have this little, wonderful little boy's hand in your hand. You're walking into a school. He's 5 years old. He's going to kindergarten. There's a happy teacher, happy boy. He goes off to kindergarten. You go down the hall. You hear the click, click, click of your heels around the corner, and there's your classroom. And you're a teacher. Then fast forward in your mind and imagine that you're sitting in a big stadium or auditorium. You see caps and gowns down below. It's a high school graduation. Your son's name is called. He gets up and he walks across the stage. The principal shakes his hand and hands him his diploma. He turns around, he waves at you and the family, and you're there. And you feel so proud of your son and your part in helping him get to this stage of his life. And then you fast forward and you're sitting in the front row of a wedding and you're the mother of the groom. Your son is marrying the love of his life and your teaching career is flourishing. And she didn't talk about, where I would go to school, how much money it was going to cost, where I'd get the money, what kind of daycare I'd need for him. All of the how was left away. It was simply the what of 3 different stages of a life that I could live. And she helped me see it in my mind and feel what it would feel like to actually be in that moment of my life. And I rehearsed that. Now, I was what you would call an unconscious competent. I just began to do that. Within a couple of weeks, my numbers had stabilized and were just slightly better than they had been. And so the doctor said, well, you might have a little more time. So we're going to let you go home. If my mother had agreed to take care of me, and you'll have to go into the doctor 4 or 5 times a week at first. I went home in an ambulance. That's how sick I was. And I could hardly get my head off the pillow at first, but subtly I started getting better and better. Pretty soon I was going 3 times a week to the doctor, and then 2 times a week, and then once a week. And after about 4 months, I'm sitting in a meeting with the surgeon and the specialist and the MD, the GP, and they're shaking their heads and they're saying, we have no science for why your one kidney that was 50% destroyed with this disease, an active disease, why there would be a complete reversal, why that one kidney now would be functioning absolutely 100% perfectly. We don't understand what's happened here. We're going to call it a medical anomaly, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And I did at that moment have this big epiphany what I was doing, but I just kept doing what I was doing. I was leaning into life. I was leaning towards a vision. I was coming from a vision. And that, after a few weeks of realizing, I felt like I'd gone through a doorway, and I became a thirsty sponge for everything I could find in the field of transformation. That was over 40 years ago.
Yeah, and what I love about that story is it shows the double-edged sword of beliefs.
Absolutely.
So in the beginning, the reason you were in that situation with your kidney situation was because you believed that you were a bad person, that you believed that you did the wrong thing. But then just that little shift in belief then got you into health.
That's right.
And we're going to be covering some different exercises and so forth in the training today, and we'll go through that as well. But my experience with my limiting belief is a little different to yours. Actually, I've got plenty of stories. And here's the interesting thing, is that when you are consistently stepping outside your comfort zone and wanting to create a better life for yourself, you find that you'll have different beliefs that come up in different areas. But the biggest one, because Glenn always jokes about this and thinks that he blames me for holding us back for many years, which, we joke about that. I'm not taking any responsibility. But back in February 2008, I'm in Sydney. Glenn and I were working with a woman called Linda Dyer. She's like an NLP practitioner, and we were creating a product called the How To series. There were 6 different videos in the series, and the video that we were working on specifically on this day was how to eliminate limiting beliefs. And I remember I'm in the living room and there's just Glenn, Linda and I, and Linda's like, I need to do an exercise on camera so that people can see the process to get rid of the limiting beliefs. So she goes, Nat, I need to do this process with you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Linda, but I don't think I can help you. I go, I'm a really positive person. I see the glass half full. Exactly, And she's like, okay. And she said, well, let me ask you a question. And she said, do you have enough money in your life? And I'm like, no, definitely not. And she goes, well, why don't we just try the exercise on that area and see how we go? And if nothing comes up, we'll try something else. And of course, she clearly understood that I had a limiting belief, because otherwise, if I didn't, I would be getting good results in that area of my life. So we sit down, I close my eyes, and she asked me a series of questions which are designed to get me into my subconscious mind. Then, after a series of questions, she said to me, when did you first form your limiting belief around money? And I said, without hesitation, when I was 5. And at first I'm thinking, okay, where did that come from? And then what came up for me was a memory of when I was at school. And I was 5 years old, I'm in kindergarten, and I'm from a big family. I'm one of 8 kids. From a country town in Orange, like I said before. And I didn't really socialise with other kids outside the family until I went to school. So, my maiden name is Roloff. So I used to get teased a lot about, Roloff off the cliff and roll off the hill, and you know what kids are like. But and it wasn't really the teasing that bothered me so much, because my grandmother really instilled in me to be proud of my name. But my observation as a 5-year-old was that it was the kids with money, like the richer kids, were the ones that teased me the most. Now, I don't know whether that was true or not, who knows, but that was my interpretation when I was 5. And so my belief that I took on at that point was like, well, if you have money, you're not a nice person. Now, I want people to like me. So I'm like, well, I don't want money because, and this is like a thought or an observation I had, just gets stored in my subconscious mind. So then I go home, and of course, like I said, one of 8 kids. Whenever there's stress at home, it's always about the, money most of the time. And so then this is reinforcing, my belief around money. It's like, oh, money's like it's stressful. It's it's bad. So as I'm growing up, and here's what happens with these limiting beliefs. When you take on a belief like that, it completely taints your perspective about that particular subject for the rest of your life. So I'm going through this process with Linda, this emotion, this memory's coming up, and then I have this realization that this is why I have this belief that I have. And then like dominoes, all these thoughts and decisions that I'd made throughout my life started coming to the surface. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I used to say things like, I have enough money, or my personal favorite is like, I was very spiritual. I don't need money. We should go out to everyone else who deserves it more than I do. And so I would say things like this. And a lot of like the jobs and the careers that I took had nothing to do with money. It was the last thing I considered because, I didn't want it to be something that people judged me on. And so I remember I had tears flowing down my face. Even Glenn was like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, I am. But it was like this load had been lifted, like a massive load had been lifted. And I'm like, okay, now that I'm aware of what these thoughts are, I can now go through and consciously choose something different, which is what I did. And I would write down affirmations of the thoughts that I actually wanted to think. And so when I would go through and do my affirmations and my visualizations, and I'm going to go into this a little bit later on, I would actually visualize and see myself operating from these new thought paradigms and seeing the different outcomes that would happen as a result of that. Now, that happened in February of 2008. And April of 2008 is when we came over to the US. We joined our mastermind group, and we decided.
That was fast.
Yeah, no, we're very fast. But then September 2008 is when we did our first big launch of My Movies to the world. Now, everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong on that launch. It landed the week the economic crisis hit the planet in September of 2008. Our email delivery system closed down our account because our list was growing that big. We thought that we're doing something illegal. We had PayPal froze our account with all these hundreds of thousands of dollars in there. But despite all of it and everything that was working against us, we did a $700,000 week. The week the economic crisis hit the planet.
More money than you'd ever made in a year of 5 years
I'd never
together.
seen that amount of money in my life.
Yeah.
And of course, since then, it's been the most, financially and spiritually successful years of my life because I was able to clear that limiting belief, which is...
And you never had another launch where there was that much pushback on the launch because you had cleared more and more and more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And now look at life now. I get to do trainings. I get to sit with people like you. We've reached over 2.1 million people around the world. We're working with underprivileged children in Colombia and other places in Liberia. We've got a curriculum that's going into the schooling system here in the US. There are so many amazing things. I'm traveling the world and having this incredible life because I was able to clear that particular, limiting belief and be able to move forward with that. I mean, what about your life since then? I mean, you've been in this industry for like 40 years or more.
I have. I've been studying since 1971, and then I launched my formal teaching career in 1981, so 35 plus years ago. The power of it is that as we make a decision to grow, everything, set a goal, set a powerful goal, everything unlike that will rise up because it's already patterned in us. When I made a decision to really teach this, and I was going to my 2-year master's training in this, and I got my undergraduate degree, and then I got my master's degree in counseling psychology. Now I'm going into a 2-year seminary to study and bring this from a spiritual point of view. I had money struggles. and we were getting by, and I had a getting by, okay, it was a getting by pattern, so I always had enough to get by. I attended a lecture. I drove across maybe 1,000 miles to go attend this lecture by a man who I was speaking in New York all the time, but he'd come to the West Coast to see him teach, and I'd heard that he was just an amazing teacher of prosperity principles and abundance, and I could say the words, and I actually somewhere thought, this is an abundant universe, but I didn't have it in my life. And so when he came out to speak, there were 3,000 people there. I'd gotten there early, had to pay, ready to take notes, and I'm about 1,000 deep, and he comes out and he's dressed to the nines. He's probably 80 years old, big chocolate white hair, and he walks out dressed handsomely, and he steps out on the stage and he looks around the room, and then he pulls out his wallet, and he opens up his wallet and he pulls out this stack of money. He fans the money out and holds it up in front of us, all of us, and he goes, this is money. I love money. I just love money. And I'm sitting there and I go, I can't believe I drove 1,000 miles to listen to this guy. He's not even spiritual. This is disgusting to me. And then he put the money back in his wallet and he goes, so don't raise your hand, but if you had a thought this was disgusting, or you had a feeling of being a repulsion, or you might have even thought this guy's not even spiritual, I want to tell you something. Money heard you. Why would money come where it's not loved and wanted? He says, let me tell you one more thing. If I, instead of doing what I had just done, if I walked out here with a little cute little boy, like 4 years old, and I walk out here holding his hand and I pick him up and I hold him up in front of you and I say, this is my grandson. I love my grandson. Not one of you would have been disgusted. Not one of you would have been repulsed. And not one of you would have thought I'm not spiritual, because you've been trained. It's okay to love a grandchild, and it's not okay to love the symbol of your freedom. Money is nothing more than a symbol of your ability to be free, to really give your contribution, and to really make the difference you want to make. He had my attention. I knew I had some limiting beliefs, and I went after him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It looks, and it could be in any area of your life. I mean, if you have a specific area of life that you are not getting the results that you want, then more often than not, it's because you have a limiting belief or some kind of programming that really is holding you back from being able to create success in that area.
And you may not even know you have that belief.
So as some of you know, and I know, Mary, you know this, that about 3 years ago, Glenn and I, we ended our marriage. We still have an amazing business relationship, an amazing friendship. But I think part of the reason for that is that when we ended our marriage, one of the questions I asked myself was, what was my contribution to this? Like, how did I show up in this?
You were married for 18 years. 18
years, exactly. And we got to the life that we wanted. We created this amazing life, and then our marriage ended. So I'm like, okay, I need to figure out what was going on here. And I went and did a thing called the Hoffman process, and which is by far the most thorough process I have ever done in my life. You go to the retreat center, which sounds a lot nicer than it is, but there's a lot of work to be done. So you hand over all your electronics. You're there for 6.5 days. And they cover everything. And it was really interesting because when we talk about where limiting beliefs come from, there's a couple of different trains of thought. And one of these trains of thought is, by Bob Hoffman. He thinks that by the age of 3, you have already adopted most of your behavior patterns and your thought processes, because we rely on our parents so much for survival that we want to emulate them. We want to be just like them. So before you go and do this process, there's like 44 pages of pre-work that you have to do. So you go through and you're ticking all these patterns, behavior patterns that apply to you. So you tick all your patterns, and then you tick all your dad's patterns, and then you tick all your mum's patterns, and then you start to see a pattern. I'm like, now I see where I got that from. So that was really interesting to be able to discover that. And what that uncovered for me is that, when I was 3, my biological mother left. And there's a whole story behind that. But what happened is I remember a memory came up for me when I was going through the process of seeing my dad really upset, as you can imagine. So my mother left.
8 children, your mother leaves.
No. So this is before the other 6. This is before so this is pre the other 6. So there was my dad, and there was me and my sister. So I was 3, my sister was 2. Biological mother left, and I remember a moment of looking at my dad or seeing my dad, and he was very upset. And so in that moment as a 3-year-old, I'm thinking, I need to be strong. and I need to, put up a facade like everything is okay. And so that was this coping mechanism that I had developed at a very young age that I had no idea was actually going on. So, for example, like in my marriage, what I found out is that, if things started to get a bit tough or things weren't working out, my coping mechanism was to shut down emotionally and put up a facade like everything was okay. And unfortunately, they got to the point where, it got to the end of our marriage. But thank goodness I was actually able to uncover that and the belief that I had to, to do that. Because but now Glenn and I have an incredible relationship. We're not married anymore, but it's like better than it's been for a long time. Because we've been able to do that. So
and also because you set that down, you're able to have relationships with all kinds of people now.
Yes.
And I mean, your life's moving forward in a massive and incredible way, Natalie. And how great that is, which is true for all of us. If we go and find something that's been operating in us, it actually creates something we don't want. It helps us discover that we can change that.
Absolutely. And it's really helped me to step into a better version of who I am. And it's, I have, I'm stepping a lot more into my femininity and my vulnerability. I don't find that scary anymore. And this, when you can identify what these beliefs are for you, then you can find that it really helps to change who you are and how you show up in the world and the decisions that you make and the results that you get in your life as well. And as a result of that, since Glenn and I, separated, my book went bestseller. I got asked to create a curriculum for schools.
This is so amazing.
I'm going to tell a little bit about this story because it's really I would never have been able to say yes to this if I hadn't have gone through that work and kind of realised what my limiting programs and patterns were. I created a children's version of the Mind Movies the Mind Movies platform. And so I created it, and then I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. It's great, but do I reach children with this? Like, how do I do that? And of course, I set an intention, I need to figure out how to get this out into the world. And then we had a friend who was living in Medellin in Colombia, and he got connected with the dean of a university down there and was talking about Mind Movies for Kids. And the dean said, we must have this in our schools. So next, I'm on a phone call with the dean of a university in Medellin in Colombia, my friend, his interpreter, and myself, right? So we're talking away, and as a company, we committed to donating 10,000 accounts to work with underprivileged children there. But then the dean said, can you also create a curriculum for the school? And I'm like, yes. Sure. And I go, what is it that you want? And he goes, we'd like 12 lessons. We'd like you to, include homework for the children to take home to give these concepts to their families as well. We want you to address bullying and early school dropout. And if you could have it to us in 2.5 weeks, that way we can do the translation and be able to, start teaching when the kids come back. And I'm like, sure, no problem. I hung up the phone and went, what? I don't know how to do this. I left school when I was 15 and I don't have children. But, sometimes when you're given something like this, you just have to say yes. And so, I went through the processes, and the thing normally I would say, and you think about this, like I just said, what came up for me is, I'm not worthy. I can't do this. Who am I to do this? This is I'm not important enough. This is too much responsibility. So what kept bubbling up was all of these limiting beliefs that I had that I wasn't able to do it. So, I freaked out a little bit. So then I called Glenn. I go, Glenn, I just, did this deal with the Colombian people. He goes, that's fantastic. I go, I have no idea what I'm doing. He goes, standard issue, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, that is not helping me. So then I ring my girlfriend, Melanie, and she goes, you're a master manifester. You know how to do this. And I'm like, okay, why is no one helping me? But then I kind of sat down and went, okay, I don't want to be thinking these beliefs. These beliefs are going to hold me back from being able to create this.
Prevent you from helping the kids.
Absolutely. So then I'm like, okay, what I need to do is sit in, the visualization of what it is that I want to achieve here. And this is very similar to your story where the nun or whoever she was took you through that process. So I would sit down in a visualization. I could see myself walking into the classroom. I could feel and hear the kids running up and they're laughing, they're screaming, they're smiling. I'm talking to the teachers and they're crying because of the change in the children and the change in their own lives. And I even fast forward and I see some of the children on a podium talking, with being able to, at university, saying, if it wasn't for this course, it completely changed the course of my life. Because remember, these are underprivileged children that we were working with. For the first week and a half, I could not be in that visualization and not cry. And so the more I focused on that,
yes,
that's what I had to keep my focus on. And so I remember I'm thinking, do I know a teacher? What's my first step? So I called a friend who was a teacher and I said, lessons laid out in a regular way, so at least I look like I know what I'm doing. She said, sure. So she sent me the outline of a lesson. So then I figured out what I wanted and I called my copywriter, who writes in my voice a lot. I go, dude, you got to help me here. I said, I've got 2.5 weeks to do this. Can you flesh this out with words so that, I can tweak your words. It'll be much faster for me to do that. He said, sure. He said, but I have a secret weapon. I'm like, no, what's that? He said, my wife is a teacher and she specializes in early age curriculum. So, if I had sat in the whole, this is too much for me, I can't do this, I'm not worthy, why should I do this? I would never have been able to be able to create this program. But of course, when you step into what it is that you do want to be able to visualize that and see that, that's what changes everything.
It does, because you changed your frequency. So everything that you're attracting has changed. So awesome, amazing.
So we talked about, one idea of where limiting beliefs come from, which is, before the age of 3. One of the most popular beliefs, and one that, that I use a lot or talk about a lot, is the science behind how all this happens. If you read something like The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton, any Dr. Joe Dispenza books, we talk about the different developmental stages of our life. And according to epigenetics, we have between the ages of 2 and 6, we are predominantly in what we call theta brainwave activity. So this is what we call sponge mode.
Right.
So when you're in theta, you are very receptive to everything that's going on around you. So I know when I talked before about, how I formed my limited belief when I was 5, well, this is why that one situation was, embedded so deeply in my subconscious mind. So we have no filter. We have no filter whatsoever. So everything that we're watching, seeing, observing, listening, hearing, it just goes straight into the subconscious mind and gets stored in there. Now, what we have found out is that the events that have the strongest emotional attachment to it,
impact,
they are the ones that get stored in there the hardest and the deepest, and they're the hardest ones to budge. So we have, like it could be something innocent, okay, so for example, I always talk about this one about the example with the spider. So if you see your mum when you're a child freaking out when she sees a spider and she's got the newspaper and she's screaming and she's going, you're looking at that going, okay, that's how I'm supposed to act when I see a spider. And it has an emotional impact on you. If someone, when you're young, tells you that you're stupid or that you're not very pretty, or that you're an idiot, which is known to happen, then sometimes, especially through repetition, you start to believe that. Then
nothing to do with the truth.
No.
It has to do with the belief.
Exactly. It's only a belief. But the thing is we take on these beliefs so strongly and we believe that they're true. So then as you're moving through life, let's say that you were told that you were stupid and you don't do well in an exam. Your subconscious mind goes, see, told you.
That's right.
It's because you're stupid.
And it stacks evidence.
Exactly.
Show you. Here's evidence. Here's evidence. Here's evidence.
And throughout a whole life, it keeps stacking the evidence. It's like when I was talking about my money limiting belief. Every time I would have some kind of decision or to do with my career or to do with money or anything like that, like money would never, it would just go through my hand like sand. Because everything I did was like, it'd be like, see, I knew I can't hold on to money, because, again, we're gathering evidence the whole time that we're doing this. So then after the age of 6, we're going predominantly Delta when it comes to daytime activity. So it's harder for us to be able to adopt new ideas because we've already got our beliefs. We start judging and criticizing and looking at everything through the tainted glasses of the beliefs that we've already adopted. Yeah.
I think of the theta stage like the backyard. it just receives any seed you planted in. It doesn't say to you, no, you don't want that. You don't want that kind of flower or that kind of vegetable. You only want, it has no sorter. And when we're little, just every thought, every idea that are, and particularly the ones emotionally charged, they just grow in there until, then you build a filter, and then you come along. Natalie Ledwell comes along and says, hey, you planted some stuff here. It's not producing what you want. Let's go get it. And then plant what you really do want.
Absolutely. Now, I know that you've worked with, thousands of people when it comes to their limiting beliefs. So do you have a story that kind of stands out for you, someone that you've worked with?
Sure. Many.
Yes.
One I'll tell you about, there was a man who came to a workshop of mine, maybe in 2008. And he attended a 3-day event I was doing. And the condition of his life when he came in, successful, a husband, a dad, worked in a corporate world, earned about $150,000 a year. So lots of things that were working well, apparently, in his life. However, there was one thing that wasn't working well in his life, and that was his health. That over the past 15 or 18 months prior to this workshop, he had spontaneously gone into anaphylactic shock, which is where the heart shuts down, the tubes collapse, and he would be rushed to a hospital and barely getting there in time to save his life. And not one physician, not one doctor, not one test could find out what it was that he was actually allergic to. But it was life-threatening, and he was getting, prior to this, 6 or 8 weeks before he came to the seminar, he was going into this kind of state once or twice a week. And
Wow.
he was desperate. I actually later would say to him, how did you ever have the courage to get on a plane and come out to California and come to the seminar? Anyway, he enrolled in the program, and by the process we did, we began to look at his life and look at where he came alive and where he didn't come alive. And so you're mentioning you weren't coming alive, and the result with your money, and the person you were working with helped you take a look at that. Do you have enough money? No, I don't have enough money. And so how alive he was at his work, he began to describe that when he would park his car and get out to go into the corporate job, he would feel this deadened feeling that would come over him. And then he would immediately say, but I have good benefits, and I have a good income, and I'm a good dad, and I'm a good husband, and I'm a provider. So he had a strong belief in the right thing to do was be a good provider and be a good dad and be a good husband, and a belief that he had to trade his own aliveness in order to have that, which is what he'd seen his dad do.
Yes.
And so for a man to be a good provider, for a man to be a good man, you trade your own aliveness in order to be a provider, and you don't pay attention to whether or not you're alive, really, in your own work. You don't pay attention to whether what you're doing with your time and talent nourishes you.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he would, within a short amount of time, realize he was allergic to his corporate job. And it was sucking the very life out of him. Now, that didn't mean that he had a belief right now that he could actually change that.
Right.
It took some time to install strong enough new belief, and he borrowed my belief long enough over time. Today, he owns 5 businesses. And to watch his kids have the ability to see a dad who comes alive doing what he's doing. They're being modeled what it means to live from a set of beliefs which is why you work. I love what you do, because you help people get free to be able to live a life, and then their kids and their kids and their communities. But interestingly, he was so afraid to leave that corporate job, and systematically we built bridges between where he was and where he wanted to be. Today, that corporation is a client of his, and he gets paid more a month for some of his people that work for him now help that corporation. They invest more a month than he earned in an entire year working for them before.
Wow.
So it's just a statement about that when you find an area of your life where you feel constricted and you're not as alive there, it doesn't have to stay that way. It doesn't have to be that way. There's not one of us who cannot break free when we understand what has us stuck and how to unlock that.
Absolutely. I mean, I do a lot of work with people with limiting beliefs. I have an amazing program, which I'm going to tell you about in just a little while in our training. But we work a lot with people with limiting beliefs to be able to create a life that is unrecognizable. And in this particular program, we use a modality called EFT, or tapping. Which is fantastic, especially when you can identify. So I help people identify what their limiting belief is, and they'll be able to use this modality to be able to clear that and free that. And what I found a lot in my experience is that people actually go through the process of using the tapping, and even if you're not sure, what the event was or what happened when you were a child, to get this belief, that a couple of things will happen. Either number one, the event will come up for them. Mm-hmm. They'll remember what that event was, or an event that happened when they were a child, and you go, oh. See, the thing is, like we said before, most of it is just an innocent situation. Like I had one woman not too long ago, she was saying that as she was doing the tapping, what came up for her was this memory. She used to go to the corner store with her father. And they used to go down there together, and he used to stand in the store and talk, with the store owner. And she'd be sort of, wandering around the store and having fun, and, then she'd be able to get a treat, and then and then she'd go home with her father. So had a really happy memory around this. And then when she was doing the tapping, what happened is that what came up with for her was a memory of when she went into the store once on her own. And she was in the store and she picked out a hat that she liked, and she, walked out with it and went home. And her father's like, where did you get the hat? And she goes, like, from the store. And she didn't understand the correlation between that you had to pay for it. She just knew that you'd be there and be with Dad and pick something, and then away you go. So, of course, he got very angry with her, took her back to the store, made her apologise. And she was quite young, she didn't really know what was going on. But because this one incident has such a strong emotional charge around it for her, she's like, oh my goodness, now I understand where I get this thing about, about money. She goes, I know I've had a limiting belief around money, but I just never knew where it came from. So once she had this realisation, it was just one small moment. Now she's choosing to have more memories about the fun time with her father. She's been able to clear those limiting beliefs and then move on to reach her goals.
That's right.
Around money. So, and it makes such a massive difference.
I just want to say, I think, you may have heard of tapping, you may not have, but the kind of work that Natalie Ledwell does, and when she said one of the tools we use, and the way she brings it to you, I've never seen anything like it in any of the programs I've seen. So, just one of the many tools you use.
Thank you. Okay, so like I alluded to earlier in our training, I want to take you through a little process that you can do now and you can use forever in the future to be able to identify what a limiting belief is and how to eradicate it. And so this is what I do. So first of all, you want to choose an area of your life that you're having challenges in. So think of something that, you've really tried to step outside your comfort zone, you're putting in the extra effort, you're setting goals, you're taking action, but you're not quite getting across the line. So think about what that area could be. It could be in money, it could be relationships, it could be health, it could be business or career. So think about what that is for you. Now, think about the last time you were taking action towards that goal. What were the thoughts that were coming up for you as to why you can't reach that goal? So the thing is, I always do this process as I'm working towards something. Because like I said, we have different, programs and beliefs for different areas of life. And so as I'm moving towards a goal, I'll actually write the notes on my iPhone, the little notes app. I used to have like a little notepad that I would carry with me. And then what I would do is actually write down all the thoughts that would come up for me that day around that particular goal. Whether they're positive or negative, I just write them all down so I don't miss anything. And then at the end of the day, I'll look at the list, and then I can start to see a whole bunch of thoughts that are not empowering, that I know that are holding me back. And I'm like, See, once you call them out and you acknowledge them and you write them down on paper and you can actually see them in front of you, like, okay, now I can see why I'm taking one step forward, two steps back. Because even though consciously I want to be successful here, I'm like subconsciously there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here that is not, empowering me to move forward. So then what I do is in that moment, because I don't really need to know where it came from. For me, it's like, okay, it's there. I am consciously going to choose new empowering thoughts. So then what I will do is then write a list of thoughts that I want to think that are going to help me get there. So if it's to do with money, I'll have thoughts like, money flows easily to me. I always know how to make money, and I have more than enough money in the bank. I'm generous with my friends. I'm able to give to charities and have this whole list of affirmations. So not only is it the opposite of the disempowering thoughts that you're thinking, but I also want you to think about, well, how does a wealthy person think? A wealthy person's not thinking, how do I pay the bills? No. They're like, how do I make more money? How do I help more people? How do I, take my family on this trip? So whatever those thoughts are. So think about some of the thoughts that you have, and I want you to write some affirmations down of the thoughts that you want to think about the love that you want to create in your life, or the wealth you want to create, or the health, or whatever that is. Then when you sit down in your visualizations every day, so for me, I actually add these affirmations to my mind movie. So when I'm working towards it, like I do a mind movie for every specific, project or goal that I'm working towards. So I'll add these thoughts to it as well. So when I'm sitting in my visualization, I can actually see myself already operating from this new thought paradigm. I can see myself thinking how that affects my actions and how that affects the outcomes, and as I'm working towards that goal. Because the thing is, we need to be the person that we need to be to create the wealth and the health and the love that we want.
Yeah.
And being able to see yourself in that thought paradigm is really effective.
It's really the only way to create lasting change, because you can't get to your goals. You have to come from them.
Yes.
So by building the thought form that's harmonious with being and having the results you want, you're actually generating a whole new wavelength that puts in motion things you can't even begin to predict, that it moves and organizes molecules of result, what turn into our results, our circumstances, our situations. As you spoke about going to Hoffman and changing things, and then all these opportunities that just suddenly started coming to you because you were on a different frequency and a different wavelength.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely what works.
Well, actually, the opportunity to work with the Columbian University came 2 weeks after I got out of Hoffman.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It was insane.
Well, you're being.
Yeah. So that's why it was easy for me to recognize, wait a minute, see these thoughts, these patterns? No, not up in here. I was like, no, I need to be sitting in this visualization.
That's right.
So when we talk about that, it's important to see yourself already there, already living this new life and being able to, operate from this new thought paradigm, which is going to make a massive difference. Now, that's a little exercise that you can do anytime. That's something you can take with you the whole time. But what I also want to do with you now, and I know I talked about this earlier, was my subconscious success imprint exercise. So before we get into this, I want you to...
Would you be willing to say that just a little slower?
Yeah.
So that our listener, our viewer, subconscious success. So it's not just what you're thinking of for success. She's giving you a tool here and going to lead us through this so that all of you will work, all the power that's moving through you will get in line with and in harmony with the very success that you would imagine. Subconscious success imprint. We're going to really imprint this in the powerhouse of our own subconscious. And it's a real powerful tool.
Yeah. So, and keeping that in mind, I want you to think about or look at the area of life that you wrote down on paper that you want to work on and that you want to make improvements on, and you want to apply that as we go through this process. So I'd like you to start by getting into a comfortable position, turn off your phone and eliminate any unnecessary distractions for the next few minutes. I invite you to, once you're comfortable, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, full breaths in, so breathing in and breathing out, breathing in and breathing out. And as you keep doing these nice deep breaths, release all the tension from your body and begin to feel your arms and your legs and feel how nice and warm they are. They may even feel like they're getting a little heavy. And as your arms and legs are feeling nice and warm and just a little bit heavy, I'd like you to notice how relaxed you feel right now. That's it. Nice full deep breaths in and out. And I'd like you to count slowly backwards from 10. You can do this in your head. So go in from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So you're feeling very relaxed now and warm and incredibly safe. Now what I'd like you to do is to visualize yourself sitting on a beach or in a meadow or another place that's beautiful to you. Are you there? This could even be like a favorite room for you, somewhere that you feel safe and comfortable. And take a moment just to enjoy the beauty that's around you. Now, as you're sitting in this beautiful place, feeling relaxed and warm and comfortable, I'd like you to think about the area of life that you wrote down that you most want to impact today. Now, what I'd like for you to do is to picture the result that you wrote down that you're really trying to achieve in that life area. And I want you to picture yourself striving for this goal, reaching for it, working towards it, giving it your all, but not achieving it. You're trying to try, but you just can't seem to achieve the result. And I want you to create a picture now of what it looks like. What does it look like to fail and not be able to achieve this result? How does it look to yourself and to others to be a failure, to be unworthy of prosperity or love or success, and to appear like you're all alone and no one is coming to help you? It's okay. You can allow yourself to look. This is a safe place. So see how all of this looks right here in this picture, almost like a Polaroid that's floating in front of you. See the fear that you've been avoiding for so long. See it in that picture. What it looks like to have tried so hard to make this result happen, but you couldn't. What it looks like that you don't deserve it. What it looks like that you're left standing there all by yourself. Now stare at it, face it. Now face this picture of what you've been hiding from and pushing away all this time. Stare at these fears and stare right in its face, almost like a great big Polaroid that you could reach out and touch if you wanted to. Now off in the distance, maybe the top right hand or left hand of your vision, you can see another picture. It's smaller. It's about a third of the size of the one that's in front of you now, because it's further away than the one that's right in front of you. But when you look at it, you can see that on that picture, you are achieving that result you want. You're making the money that you've dreamed of. You have the amazing relationship you've always wanted. You run an incredible business that makes a lot of money and truly helps people. And you have that slim, trim figure and boundless energy and vitality that you need to live the life that you desire. Now, when you look at this picture, you feel alive and fulfilled and proud and unstoppable. It feels amazing to be living and breathing that result that you wanted. Now, as you look at it, you find yourself breathing deeply. Your shoulders are back, your head is held high, and you're breathing full, deep, confident breaths in and out. You may even start realizing that there's a smile starting to creep across your face because you're so incredibly happy and proud and grateful for what you see there. You absolutely love the way that it feels to achieve this result, and you can't imagine letting anything get in the way of this feeling. As you continue to look at this picture, you notice that it's beginning to move slightly closer to you ever so slowly. And as you keep looking at it, you notice the feelings of confidence and accomplishment and invincibility are only getting stronger because you decided that you wanted something and you went for it and you achieved it, and it's all right there in this picture. Now, as you keep looking at this picture, you can't believe it, but the feeling grows even more. Wow, you feel so incredibly good knowing that anything that you focus on and set your mind to, you can achieve because you're so incredibly resourceful, capable, valuable, and worthy. Now, as the picture of you achieving this result moves towards you ever so slowly, you notice that when you really take it in, you feel so very proud of yourself because you know in your heart that you deserve it, that all of the people who matter, the people who really count, have stuck by you and always will no matter what. And you feel completely aware of all the love that you already carry inside of you, love for yourself, that you know with every complete confidence that will never ever leave you. You have it all, everything that you need to achieve anything you set your mind to, and it feels amazing. Now, what I want you to do is see yourself in your mind's eye sitting there in that beautiful place with these two pictures in front of you. The smaller one that contains you achieving the result that you want, the one that makes you feel so good and is off to the top left or right of your vision. And the picture of you not achieving the result, the larger picture, is right in front of you. And very quickly, when I tell you to, I want you to switch the two pictures as fast as you can so you can pull forward the picture of the result that you do want and snap it into place right in front of you, large and in color, while at the same time you take the picture of what you don't want and push it back into the horizon to the top left or right-hand corner of your vision. Now, I want you to switch these pictures fast, and as you do it, I want you to hear them snap into their new places. Are you ready? Okay, do it now. Snap. That's it. Now do it one more time. Snap. And do it again. Snap. And another time. Snap. That's it. Let's switch them one more time and do this as fast as you can go. Snap. And now as you wait for a moment, and you really feel fantastic because you can see that picture of you achieving that result and that you desire, all of the feelings of confidence and pride and accomplishment that go with it, that picture is right in front of you and it's staying there. It's now stuck in place right in front of you and it's not going anywhere. Now, when you think of that result, you know, the money that you want to make, the amazing relationship, the incredible business, and the slim, trim figure and boundless energy that you want, when you think about that result, you can see it and it's right in front of you. And as you see it, and every time you even think about it now, you feel in every fiber of your being how clear and confident and focused you are, how deserving you are, and how loved you are by the people around you who matter most. This is your destiny. This is who you are. Now take a nice deep breath in now. As you do, let the other picture, the smaller one that's off on the horizon, notice how that picture is now faded and it's paper thin, and you're just going to let it blow away. You don't need it anymore. You've pretty much forgotten about it now, and it's gone. Because this other picture that's right in front of you now, that's staying firmly in place, is actually moving closer to you, and you welcome it. It is clear and it's vibrant, it's coming alive, and now it's animated. It's just like a movie. It is so lifelike, and you step into it right now. You own it, and it's yours. So just take another deep breath in now and really feel all those emotions as you're breathing in. So get slowly breathing out. Again, breathing in one more time, really feeling that emotion as you're breathing in. Breathing out. I want you to slowly become aware that you're back in the room. Slowly wiggle your fingers and your toes. And then when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Okay, welcome back. How do you feel? Now, you've just completed my subconscious success imprint exercise. It's a very powerful guided process that has just helped you to imprint new empowering beliefs of your confidence, your worthiness, and your value right into your subconscious mind. Now, instead of associating fear or pain with the result that you'd like to achieve in that area of your life, you'll automatically begin to associate it with all of the feelings of happiness, fulfillment, and pleasure that having that result will give you. And because of this, your subconscious self-limiting beliefs that used to stop you before will be a thing of the past.
It's amazing. The visualizations were absolutely vivid. Thank you so much for guiding us through that. It's very important for me. But a quick question, is this something that you just do one time, or is it something that, I think I know the answer to this, but something we actually need to do regularly to stay in shape like physical exercise?
Well, now, as I mentioned, in order for these new beliefs to stick so that you'll see continued improvement in your life, you also need to apply repetition. So in other words, I highly recommend that for at least the next 10 days, that you take a few minutes each day to go through this exercise. And to help you do this, I'm going to give you the free audio recording of this process so you can play it on your computer or your mobile to continue seeing the amazing results in your life. Now, as I mentioned, this audio download is normally $47, but today it's my gift to you, and I'll give you the link to download it at the very end of our training session today, which will be wrapping up in just a few minutes. So now we're on to the biggest mistake that 99.9% of people make. Now that you know how to reprogram your subconscious mind for success, I feel compelled to share one more very important piece of information with you. The number one biggest mistake that keeps 99% of people attached to their self-limiting beliefs and stuck in life, no matter how hard they try to create positive change. Because I want you to leave this training session knowing precisely how you can avoid this common pitfall. Now, I have always believed that the people that you choose to surround yourself with have a direct bearing on how successful you'll be in life. Don't you agree? Don't you agree, Mary?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know that to be true.
And I'm talking about success in all areas of life, with money, business, career, relationships, physical fitness. And this has really hit home for me back in 2007 when my business partners and I decided to start our business, My Movies. Now, we realized that in order to be successful, we needed to surround ourselves with other people who would call out the best in us and encourage us to stretch and grow. So in April 2008, we chose to move to San Diego to find a mentor and immerse ourselves in the internet marketing world. Now, the good news is that we found it. We found an amazing coach and an incredible mastermind group of goal setters and action takers that we knew we just had to be a part of if we were to achieve the results that we wanted in our business and to grow into the people that we wanted to become in life. But the not so good news was the price tag. Now, this mastermind we wanted to join cost $2,700 per month. And we had a small issue. In fact, we had very little money. We were here in the US on the smell of an oily rag, as we say in Australia, which meant we had no money. So have you ever had an experience like that, where an opportunity presented itself to you that offered you the chance to achieve all of the freedom, the happiness, and the financial rewards that you've ever dreamed of, and all you had to do is step up and claim it? And if you didn't, you knew you'd stay exactly where you were and continue to get exactly what you'd always had. Well, this is exactly where we found ourselves. Could we afford it? Would it be worth the money? Would we get the results that we wanted? Well, we were so committed to our success that we realized we couldn't afford not to take this opportunity. Plus, the person leading the mastermind group had everything that we wanted to have, all of the results we wanted in business and in life, and so we went for it. And I can tell you it's the single most best decision, and it is directly responsible for where we are today. Now, today, thanks to that single decision and the influence of our coach and our outstanding mastermind group and our friends, we are truly living the life of our dreams. Our company, My Movies, has now touched the lives of over 2.1 million people worldwide. I live in an endless summer between sunny Los Angeles and Sydney, Australia. I travel the world visiting exotic places and spending time with our loved ones. And I also have the ability to give back to causes that I feel very passionate about. Now, I don't tell you this to impress you, but to impress upon you that despite all of the good work that you may do to stay motivated and on track with your goals, the people that you choose to surround yourself with will either make or break your success. And this holds true whether you want to go out and get that dream job that you've been yearning for, or reach that goal of earning $10,000 per month, or wanting to meet your soulmate, that perfect partner who understands you like no one else, or put that passionate spark back into your current relationship, or to start that new passion-based freedom business that you've been dreaming of, or take your existing business to the next level, or finally just to hit those weight loss goals that you've always felt like were just outside your reach. So no matter what area of life you wrote down on your piece of paper that you really want to impact this year, no matter what result you listed as the one that you really want to have in your life, listen carefully. The undeniable fact is that the community of people that you surround yourself with will make or break your success.
That's right. You know, Jim Rohn, one of the most respected personal development and professional speakers of, many, many years ago, but he had a very important point when he said that the 5 people you hang out with most, and he called it the law of averages. You average the income they're making, you average the happiness they have, you average the success they've achieved, and you're going to be making pretty much the same money and have the same success, not because you don't have the potential to achieve or be more, but because, and it's not the money that's really contagious, but it's the thinking
Yes.
that generates that. What I love, what you have, Natalie, is a way for people to average themselves at a much higher level of performance, experience, and result.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nat, that's such a powerful reminder. You know, it's something that a lot of people struggle with because, yes, it is absolutely possible for us to transform ourselves, but you can't expect to transform the people around you, right? So the challenge here is that once you've started adopting your new empowering beliefs, you need to surround yourself with people who will actually help you, not pull you back, but actually help you maintain and expand the highest expression of those beliefs. And often this means exploring outside your own social circle and connecting with new and like-minded, uplifting, cheerleading people. And that's why you've got so many communities and tribes and movements in the personal development world and personal growth field, because if you want to not only achieve your highest potential, but you want to also maintain and expand and grow that, you're going to need the support. You absolutely will need the support and energy of people on the same path as you. And so I'm super excited